Hey, everybody, it's ground control on UFC Fight Pass. That'll eventually roll off the tongue. I'm sure of it. I'm TJ DeSantis. He is Brandon Mccaghren. Are we going with ground control? I kind of like it. It feels funny right now.
I like ground control.
Yeah,
Originally, you tried to tell me the ground and the pound. I was like,
right.
that makes it sound like you're the ground and I'm the pound. Or I was like, no, ground control's better.
Yeah, right. I think you'd be the ground and I would be the pound, the
For sure.
excess pounds, maybe. But no, we're talking jujitsu and how it relates to mixed martial arts and how it doesn't sometimes, and can just talk about jujitsu. It doesn't always have to be in correlation with MMA, but I still feel like jujitsu is the original mixed martial arts.
Yeah, it's really jujitsu is mixed martial arts
Right. It's
in
the
its original
OG.
form. Yeah, old school jujitsu got striking in it.
Right. It's got the ground and the pound. See? I'm just saying. No? Okay.
Okay, sure.
I try. You're still broadcasting with sunglasses on. I don't know how I feel about it.
I have to.
I mean, it's fine. It's fine.
I have to.
You're cool like that.
Not until I put the sunglasses on, though.
That's true. If I take my glasses off, believe it or not, I lose cool points.
That's hard. That is hard to believe.
It's true, though. You want to see?
You're coming up pretty short on cool points as is. Oh, you're right. Put them back on immediately.
That's what I'm saying. I'm
Right
not
away.
lying. I'm not lying.
Right we should get you a toupee.
Dude, I would totally wear one.
I'm going to send you one.
Let's just, I would totally rock it. Like, oh, did you buy a wig? No.
No.
What are you talking about? I decided to grow my hair out.
No, I got keeps.
It was a choice. It was a choice beforehand. You know what does make me cool?
What?
I can call Eddie Bravo.
That does make you cool.
You can too. I'm not. Usually when I say that to people, they're like, "No way." But you're like, "Yeah, I call him every day, probably." So, and we're gonna call him now. He's gonna be our first guest on ground control here. It's ringing. Eddie Bravo. It is TJ DeSantis and Brandon Mccaghren, and we're live on UFC Fight Pass with a show that we're calling Ground Control. What do you think?
I love it. Finally, a show on Fight Pass. It's all about jiu-jitsu. I mean, as far as like an ESPN type Sports Center show, right? Is that what you guys are doing?
Man, he just made it sound way more important than it actually is.
Yeah, that's way cooler than it's actually going to be. It's pretty much just going to be me and TJ talking about jiu-jitsu.
How often are you guys going to do it?
Well, I'm not doing it next week because I'm going on vacation, but I think pretty much every other week.
Okay, that's cool. Even at least once a month. You know what I mean? But if you do it every other week, that's even beautiful. And then once a week, shit, that would be awesome. There's so much jiu-jitsu going on these days. You know what I mean? That we need more shows like that. Flow Grappling's got great shows on jiu-jitsu. Fight Pass needs them now too.
Well, they got ground control, so we're gonna hold it down. Something
Where
like
can
that.
people listen to this?
Well, it's going to be available everywhere people get podcasts. And then it's also going to be available on the UFC Fight Pass Facebook and YouTube page. And then, of course, behind the paywall on UFC Fight Pass. Might give a little more extra behind the paywall, B-Mac. What do you think?
Definitely. Yeah. We should get like some of Eddie's deeper thoughts on some other stuff and put it behind the paywall.
Well, it's funny. I think Eddie's deeper thoughts can only live behind some sort of paywall.
For sure.
Yeah, totally. My podcast is behind the paywall. It's on Roxanne. It's called Look Into It. But the older episodes are free on iTunes and also on roxanne.com/Eddie Bravo. But I think the first 30 episodes are free now. And then the newer ones, you got to pay, dog.
It's all right. Now you got to support the cause.
I've been a subscriber since episode 1, Coach.
Beautiful, man. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Now, I've been a subscriber to Eddie Bravo's thoughts on no gi grappling compared to gi grappling for a long time. And I know, Eddie, that a lot of people sort of fought against it from the traditional community. But I feel like, you're not necessarily the type of person to say, I told you so. But you're in I think the sport's at a point where you might be able to say, I told you so.
Well, back in the, early 2000s when I opened 10 Planet and decided to have I got my black belt on the gi from John Jock. But even at John Jock, right from the get-go, I was the no gi at John Jock. After we were done gi training, I would get a guy or two or three or four sometimes, and we take off our gis. And I was always into. I got into jiu-jitsu because of the UFC. It wasn't the other way around. So I was into the UFC, and then I did jiu-jitsu. So I wanted it to look more, my grappling to look more like the UFC style. And plus, I always thought, my music doesn't pan out. My last resort would be fighting MMA. And so I was always working on my jiu-jitsu with that in mind. Like, man, I want it as MMA ready as possible. So that's what I had in my head. Like, if my back was against the wall, and it was between swinging a hammer at 6 a.m. and doing MMA, I would do MMA. So I was always training MMA style jiu-jitsu just in case I had to do MMA. I wasn't the kind of guy that was like, my dream was to be a UFC champion. Not at all. My dream was always music. But unfortunately, my music is horrible. So I was forced to stick with jiu-jitsu.
I don't think it's horrible.
But back then, it was taboo to shed the gi and teach jiu-jitsu no gi. I got so much. I was persecuted by the BJJ community for going no gi, and not only for going no gi, but for like naming moves. You know what I mean? But now look at no gi versus gi. Now look at what percentage of grappling events, like a shows that you would see on Flow or shows that you would see, not open tournaments, but grappling events. What percentage are no gi, right? I would say 80%, right?
It's almost all of them at this point.
Yeah, like you're going to put a show together and pay people and have like a main event. It better be no gi or you're going to lose money, man. They do gi matches every now and then, but there's some gi tournaments out there in Brazil and everything that they still do. But the big ones, what's the biggest grappling event of all time?
It's ADCC.
ADCC, it was in an arena, right? It was in an arena. And what was anybody wearing gi?
No.
Didn't see anybody.
No, nobody was. No, you didn't see one gi anywhere. No one even came out anything. You know what I mean? And for respect. So what's up with? And then who's the greatest grappler right now out there?
Gordon Ryan.
And what percentage of his training is no gi?
I mean, as far as I know, pretty much all of it. Or no, no gi is the way to be with Gordon. Yeah.
So they used to make you think back then. They had everybody convinced, and there's still some people convinced. It's like COVID. There's the gi training in the gi is going to make your no gi game better. So if that's true, then if the training in the gi makes your no gi game better, if that's true, that's kind of like saying, like strength and conditioning makes your no gi game better too. You could, that's for sure true, right? The stronger you are, the better you're going to be, and the more athletic you are, and the better cardio you have. Obviously, that's true. But if you stop training, what?
I was going to say real quick, as far as the gi and no gi argument and training is concerned, one thing I've heard from people that train primarily gi is that your grip strength becomes infinitely better from training in the gi. Is that true, Eddie, or is that not true?
Your grip strength on gis.
Yeah. Okay. On gis. That's true.
On the gi, yeah. The more you train in the gi, the better you become in the gi. The more you train no gi, the better you become no gi.
So that grip strength doesn't carry over. You're not, having wrist control back.
Yeah, that might, and so can swimming. That could carry over too, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So my point is, if the gi makes your no gi game better, just like strength and conditioning would, what happens if you stop doing strength and conditioning? Does your game slowly erode? A little bit, right? You stop doing strength and conditioning, and now you're going to do Abu Dhabi, and you stop doing strength and conditioning. Your game is not going to be as good, correct?
I agree with that.
I don't know anything about strength and conditioning, so I'm just saying.
No, strength and conditioning makes your okay. You don't know anything about strength and conditioning? Okay.
Have you seen me?
If you look great, okay.
Okay.
So my point is, can I finish my point?
Yeah, make your point.
Okay. So if the gi makes your no gi game better, then the less you train in the gi, the worse your no gi game gets.
I mean, it makes sense. It's logical.
Right?
I mean,
so Gordon's game should be shit because he barely trains in the gi. He might put on the gi every now and then. He might roll around with Marigali every now and then, but most of his training is no gi. And his, based on the theory that the gi makes your no gi game better, that would mean that training without the gi makes your game worse, or it limits your game. It makes your game inferior to those who train in the gi. And you know, I always said that's bullshit. And now look at Gordon Ryan. He's absolute proof. Look at ABCC. All no gi. No gi is huge. You're gonna put together jiu-jitsu tournament, no gi. You know, so a lot has changed now. And in regards to naming moves, I used to get fucking bashed over the head daily by the Brazilian jiu-jitsu community for making up moves. And I didn't do anything like special or nothing at all. I came from wrestling, and once I started doing jiu-jitsu, I realized, damn, there's no if it was systemized like wrestling is, like wrestling has a name for every move. Wrestling has mad names. So I realized, man, jiu-jitsu is such a beautiful thing, but it's not organized. There's most of these moves and transitions need names. They don't have names. So we gotta start naming shit. How the hell are you gonna it's gonna be very hard. And back then jiu-jitsu was so secretive. And back in the day, we didn't even have timers for rounds. When it was rolling time, you just rolled until you stopped rolling. It was like no rounds. Even in the first few years of 10th Planet, we never had rounds. We would just roll. It was rolling time, and everyone went as long as they wanted, and they switched partners whenever. So back then, there was no system to jiu-jitsu. Every day was just a mini seminar. Every day the instructor suggested moves, but then everyone goes off and does their own thing, and everyone's discovering their own path in jiu-jitsu. And now everybody's naming moves. Everybody, the Brazilians are naming moves. Everybody got their own names, and everybody loves naming moves. Yeah, you watch Hoist Gracie. There's a video of Hoist Gracie like 15 years ago, and they asked him, they go, "What do you think of Eddie Bravo naming all these moves?" And he goes, "This game is not a memory game. This is not a name game. When my father showed me how to do a technique, he just showed me how to do it. We're not naming it. It's not a memory game." I'm like, whoa, did he really just say that? Every game is a memory game. How are you going to play a game if you don't have any memory? How do you play a game without a memory? It'd be like that movie Memento, but like every second, you know? So, every game is a memory game. Jiu-jitsu is a memory game. You should name everything, and look, everybody naming everything now. Oh, look how everything transpired after all these years.
You know, one thing, getting back to the gi versus no gi argument, you hit on the big one, I think, Eddie, is the fact that, you know, if you're going to go into this sport, what you really can do now for the first time, I think almost ever, is go into the sport as a competitor, as an athlete who wants to be a professional athlete by making money from only competing at a high level. The only way you're ever going to make money is winning these no-gi tournaments. And that's where the inspiration for the next generation is they're always going to go after the money.
Absolutely. That's another point. My things have changed in 20 years. It's all no-gi now. This is all no-gi.
But now you're crazy because you have people hitting each other on the floor in your tournaments, Eddie. How dare you?
Yeah, then, you know, what's better than no-gi jiu-jitsu? No-gi jiu-jitsu with hits.
Right.
Hits with hits. That's the best. That's Combat Jiu-Jitsu World, and that's coming up March 25th. We're going to have a weekend. We're going to have Medusa on Saturday, March 25th, and that's going to be a 16-girl tournament, all Combat Jiu-Jitsu this time, no sub only. We're going Medusa, all Combat Jiu-Jitsu. 16 girls, flyweight, breach sticks in it, Fatima Klein's in it. It's going to be insane. Kaya Jackson might be in it. She went 10PQ, but she's the favorite for sure. So you're probably going to see Kaya Jackson, breach sticks, Fatima Klein, and like 13 other awesome girls doing Combat Jiu-Jitsu. Then the next day, Sunday, March 26th, all on Fight Pass, is going to be Combat Jiu-Jitsu World, the welterweight. And we got Alan Sanchez from 10th Planet San Mateo. He's got the #1 spot in for the 10th Planet team. It's going to be amazing. He's in it.
I was just going to say, all I hear is you telling me that we're going to basically see 2 modified MMA rule Grand Prix. That's all I hear. Is MMA Grand Prix.
Exactly. That's what it's looking like. Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like Once you're on the ground, that's like MMA. The combat jiu-jitsu is basically my favorite part of the UFC and my favorite part of the UFC. It's not everybody's favorite part. A lot of people's favorite part is the striking. My favorite part is the grappling and the ground fight. And when you add strikes, like in combat jiu-jitsu, it looks like MMA. No, there's no elbows and no, there's no close fists, but people are getting fucked up with their palm strikes. You know, people say, oh, they're slap fighting. Maybe there's slaps every now and then, but people are throwing serious palm strikes. And if you don't know the difference between a palm strike and a slap, you're not paying attention.
Dude, you just got to watch Damian Anderson do it one time, and he'll change all your feelings about combat jiu-jitsu if you don't like it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Also on that combat jiu-jitsu welterweight card, like I said, Alan Sanchez, who won EBI, the last welterweight EBI. He's awesome. Also, Andrew is going to be on that card. He's coming up. He's a new star. He's like in that Rutolo twin category. Just, you know, he's the younger brother of William Tackett. Both those brothers are on that Rutolo level. Also, we got a new star, a Gordon Ryan student, David Asari. And Gordon just posted last week that he posted, he goes, yeah, this is the first time I got choked unconscious in many years. And that's the guy who choked out Gordon Ryan, his student, David Asari. He's new to me, but Gordon's telling me that this guy's insane. He's good. Also, we're going to have coming back, Kaleo Romero. That's from Team Alpha Male. He did the combat jiu-jitsu team duel. That guy's awesome. Also, Aaron Wilson, it's going to be Jay-Z, Alpha Conte, Jim Ayler. It's going to be insane.
Yeah, I was going to ask Eddie, how many people are asking you to do these tournaments? Because obviously with EBI, it was the invitational. And sometimes it was, you know, really kind of pulling teeth to get people to sign up. For combat, is it the other way around? Are people asking you?
Oh, yeah. And you know, most of the competitors that do combat jiu-jitsu world have some MMA experience. You know, because the MMA fighters, this is a modified MMA, and there's less, there's less striking standing, so it's way less dangerous than MMA. So MMA fighters look at combat jiu-jitsu. These like pure jiu-jitsu fighters look at combat jiu-jitsu the opposite way. They look at it and it's like, oh my God, that's dangerous. We're gonna get brain damage. I don't know if I can do jiu-jitsu with palm strikes. So the jiu-jitsu players looking up to combat jiu-jitsu, a large percentage of them are like, hell no, I ain't doing that. Every MMA fighter that does jiu-jitsu is down for combat jiu-jitsu. They would never look at combat jiu-jitsu and go, oh my God, that's too dangerous. They're like, hell yeah.
That's what BMAC's thoughts are on it. Hell yeah.
That's exactly what my thoughts are on it. It's by far my favorite rule set.
It feels like fight night too. That's the thing. Like, people don't understand. If you watch it on TV, I mean, it's great. I think it's a fine televised sport. But when you are in the building, totally especially different. In Mexico, those Mexican fans, they've bought all in on combat jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, that CJJ team duel that we just did, that was about as much energy as you can have in a room for that amount of people. Like, it was nuts. People were going crazy.
Yeah, and after the show, remember what you told me, B-Mac? You said, Cole, can we just do shows like this every time?
Yeah.
That would be awesome. And we could just do team duels, and that's just sport, just team duel, you know what I mean? Just every time. And then we just do different weight brackets every time. That would be cool too. I would have no problem.
Man, I feel like the way that we've got the team duels and like the quintet format kind of integrating itself into the sport, I think that's really what the sport, or it's another thing that the sport was missing, was a team aspect. Just having the teams out there, it gives everybody like an extra way to be bought into it. It's just an extra layer of excitement, extra thing to keep up with. I wish that we could really get like stats and a season incorporated into it somehow, and like have a regular season and a postseason. The first person that figures that out is gonna dunk.
Totally. Now, like, me, I have pretty much, I can have whatever format I want. All right, I can do whatever I want. I can take out the strikes if I wanted to. I can make it single matches. I can make it 8-man tournament. I can make it 5-minute regulation rounds. I can make it judges. I can do whatever I want. The reason I do combat jiu-jitsu worlds the way I do is, in my opinion, it's the absolute best way to present jiu-jitsu in an entertaining way. It's the most entertaining, the most exciting. 16-man tournaments have been proven. UFC 2 proved that. Nobody knew any of the fighters in UFC 2. Nobody knew any of them. And by the finals, you knew Hoyce and Pat Smith very well. You just saw them each fight 3 times. The 16-man tournaments are like they're like self-contained seasons. Like that's the whole season right there. First 2 rounds, regular season. Third round, that's the playoff. And then you have the Super Bowl all in one night. You don't need to know any of the fighters. So it's just, no matter where you're at, you can take a 16-man tournament anywhere in the world. Any fighters, you want the best fighters, it's fine, but it really doesn't matter as long as they know what they're doing. By the finals, man, as long as you pay attention to the first 3 rounds, you get to the finals, you're going to be thoroughly entertained. It's like it's a sure thing, the 16-man tournament. And I thought I had it down, and I strike. Fuck, what's better than sub-only jiu-jitsu? Sub-only jiu-jitsu with strike. That's the best shit. So I wanted the best shit, and I thought, man, I got the best shit. 10-minute regulation, that's the best shit. 15 minutes is good too, and 20 minutes, but then people, they get slow in the beginning, you know what I mean? So I think 10 minutes is perfect. And then the best overtime possible is CBIOT. In my opinion, if I could find a better way to do overtime, I would change it and I would do it. I'm not married to anything. I would change it, and I have tweaks, constantly tweaks. So once I finally master that 16-man combat jiu-jitsu tournament, to me, it's the most entertaining jiu-jitsu you could possibly put together. And then the Japanese come up with quintet, and I'm like, oh, shit, damn, that's pretty damn entertaining too. Holy shit, they figured it out. So that's why we did that quintet combat jiu-jitsu style. So I just wanted the best. I go, you know what? That quintet team style, I love it. We do it all the time at H2. Dude, I do it for fun. We throw parties and have team duels all the time. So entertaining, so fun. Doing jiu-jitsu in a team way, and so combining them was just the most gangster thing you could do. Take combat jiu-jitsu team duel / quintet. So I'm just trying to put out the most entertaining form of jiu-jitsu. That's all I'm trying to do.
Well, you've done a good job, and it's going to be on display again coming up on UFC Fight Pass this March. Medusa, Combat Jiu-Jitsu Worlds, the welterweights. It's going to be fun and exciting. Eddie, I know you got a class to teach, so we're going to let you get on out of here, but thanks for being the first ever guest here on Ground Control.
Hell yeah, man. Thank you, dude. I appreciate it. I'll come on anytime you want.
Thanks, sir.
Do it.
See you in a couple of weekends, Coach, for Team PQ.
Hell yeah. See ya.
He's the man, dude.
I love
Bravo.
Well, you know what's exciting for me is just hearing his overwhelming enthusiasm for jiu-jitsu. And anybody who's done anything for as long as he has, it's going to, grate on you a little bit. When you make something your job that is your passion, you become less passionate about it. It's just natural. Not with Eddie Bravo.
Yeah, I don't know if that's natural. I think that I feel like I love jiu-jitsu more than ever,
Sure. But I also think you're an exception to the rule as well.
Okay, that's fair.
Most people who love their job, don't get me wrong. There's elements you're always going to love of it. But when you make something that is your passion, your job, all of a sudden you're not as passionate about it.
It definitely has the danger of becoming that for sure. But I think you got to reinvent yourself all the time and stretch yourself.
Right.
Out into new areas that you're unfamiliar within it.
Right. Or just wear sunglasses while you do it. And then
see, that changes everything. Right. But that's what Eddie's so good at, is he's always pushing, he's always at the edge of what's possible within jiu-jitsu. So just we're going to go no gi. Okay. Now everybody's kind of into that. Well, now we're going to have a tournament with strikes in it. Okay. Now everybody's into that. Well, now we're going to have a team tournament with strikes. Right. Just always right up to the line and trying to push with innovation all the time. Right. He's a genius in a lot of ways. Think about all the innovations that he's kind of seen coming over the years in the sport of jiu-jitsu. Whether you agree with the way he did it or his ideas or not, he's always kind of had a vision of where it was going that was 5 or 10 years ahead of pretty much everybody else.
Eddie's a guy who's not afraid to get weird. And then all of a sudden, what's funny about it is he's not afraid to get weird. And then all of a sudden, what, the general, massive amount of people think is weird is all of a sudden not as weird. And then they realize they kind of like it.
Yeah. And then he stops that and does something weirder.
Right. Let's just get weird.
Let's do it.